Welcome to the IT Smart Guy podcast, a technology podcast aimed at the modern business owner. And here's your host, Tony Edwards. Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the IT Smart Guy podcast, the tech-based podcast for the modern business owner. My name's Tony, and in this episode we're going to talk about Apple's new product lines that were announced at this year's Worldwide Developers Conference, the Klopp Group's hacking ultimatum, and do terminator-style risks to humanity exist? We'll then jump into the brain dump, where I will be sharing a bit more about my journey from where I started to where I am right now. Finally, at the end, as always, I'll be sharing a tip of the episode. Let's jump straight in to the news. Let's look at what's happening in the news. Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference was a highly anticipated event where the tech giant unveiled exciting updates and innovations across its product lineup. One of the major highlights of the event was the introduction of the Apple Vision Pro, a long-awaited augmented reality headset. Apple CEO Tim Cook described the headset as seamlessly blending the real world with the virtual one. Priced at £2,849 in the UK, $3,500 in the US, and set for release early next year, the Vision Pro promises a unique AR experience with its ski goggle-like design and extensive functionality. Users can expect to be able to access apps, watch movies, and even write documents in a virtual environment. However, the high price point and the need for a substantial content library are points of concern that were raised by industry experts. In addition to the AR headset, Apple unveiled iOS 17, the latest version of its iPhone operating system. iOS 17 brings several new features, including contact posters that display a caller's picture or image when receiving a call that you can customize, and live voicemail that provides real-time transcription of voicemail messages. Another notable feature was check-in. Check-in automatically notifies friends or family members when a user gets home, which enhances both security and communication. The event also witnessed updates to Apple's MacBook Air lineup, with the new MacBook Air models boasting enhanced performance and efficiency with the latest processors and an improved battery life. These updates aimed to provide users with a seamless and powerful computing experience. Plus, there is a new Mac Studio on the way, a Silicon Mac Pro, macOS Sonoma, which will be released later this year, and a few other updates for things like Apple TV and the AirPods. Throughout the event, Apple emphasized its commitment to privacy and security, and the company introduced new privacy measures, including enhanced app tracking transparency and improved data protection measures, as a way of further solidifying its position as a privacy leader. Overall, Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference showcased the company's continued dedication to innovation and user experience across its product ecosystem. From the groundbreaking Vision Pro AR headset through to the new features packed into iOS 17 and the updated MacBook Air, Apple demonstrated its commitment to continue to push boundaries and provide cutting-edge technologies to its customers, with a more focused privacy and security slant. Apple continued to deliver products that prioritise user protection and trust. However, it will only be time that will tell if Vision Pro is worth all that money. From new products to cybersecurity, a cybercrime group believed to be based in Russia, known as Klopp, has issued an ultimatum to victims of a widespread hack. The group posted a notice on the dark web warning affected organisations to contact them before the 14th of June or risk having stolen data published. Over 100,000 employees at organisations such as the BBC, British Airways and Boots have been informed that their payroll data may have been compromised. Authorities are advising against paying any ransom demands from the hackers, and analysts at Microsoft have attributed the attack to Klopp, based on the various techniques that have been employed. The group confirmed its involvement in a blog post, urging the victim organisations to initiate negotiations through their darknet portal. Now, this unconventional approach may indicate the overwhelming scale of the hack, with Klopp struggling to manage the vast amount of data. Progress Software's Move It, which is a popular business software, was exploited to gain access to numerous databases. And UK-based payroll service provider Zealous disclosed that 8 UK organisations, including the BBC and British Airways, had data stolen, while Klopp claims to have deleted information related to government services. Experts obviously remain sceptical. The group operates as a ransomware as a service, enabling hackers to rent their tools for attacks from anywhere. Despite previous arrests targeting Klopp members, the group remains an ongoing threat worldwide. Finally, we'll shift our focus to the ongoing discussions surrounding AI and the potential risks and benefits associated with it. UK Tech Minister Paul Scully has recently emphasised the importance of not solely highlighting the so-called terminator-style risks of AI while neglecting its positive potential. The popular sci-fi film franchise Terminator depicts a malevolent AI system called Skynet that aims to destroy humanity. Last week, several firms expressed concerns about the potential threats posed by AI to human existence, as UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak prepares to visit the United States. AI will be among the topics of conversation. AI refers to the ability of computers to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. And according to Mr. Scully, there are both dystopian and utopian perspectives on AI. He's emphasised that solely focusing on the doomsday-like scenarios, like a rogue Terminator situation, would overshadow the remarkable achievements AI has already made in fields such as medical research and combating climate change. The UK government recently released a policy document on the regulation of AI, which drew criticism for not establishing a dedicated watchdog. Experts believe additional measures may eventually be necessary to address the potential impact of future powerful AI systems. Mark Warner, a member of the AI Council, suggested that a ban on the most powerful AI may be required. However, he did argue that narrow AI, designed for specific tasks like cancer detection in medical images, should be regulated on par with existing technologies. In response to these reports on the dangers of AI, the Prime Minister's spokesperson stressed the need for caution and guardrails in the development of AI, acknowledging both the risk and the opportunity. The Labour Party's Shadow Culture Secretary, Lucy Powell, acknowledged the level of hysteria surrounding AI, but highlighted the opportunities that it presents. She emphasised the importance of thoughtful regulation to mitigate risk and ensure equitable distribution of AI's benefits, avoiding a scenario where only big tech giants in the US reap the rewards. She suggested that AI should be licensed, similar to medicines or nuclear power, which have dedicated regulatory bodies. OpenAI, an AI company, recently proposed the idea of a global regulator, comparable to the International Atomic Energy Authority, to oversee the regulation of super intelligent AI. Microsoft's president Brad Smith has also weighed in on the discussion, suggesting that the most powerful AIs may require safety licenses before deployment. He also advocated for international cooperation and a unified approach to regulation. Smith emphasised the potential for collaboration between the UK and the US in addressing cybersecurity and national cybersecurity concerns. It is essential to acknowledge that while potential sci-fi-like disaster scenarios capture the attention and our imagination, they may divert our focus from pressing issues related to AI, like the risk of algorithmic biases that are based on race and gender. That's it for the news this time. Let's move on to the brain dump. It's time for the brain dump. If you have an interesting tech story, if you run a business, maybe you're a technology provider and you want to come onto the show and have a chat, you can now just do that. All you need to do, go to the link in the show notes and apply. The application takes a couple of minutes, and who knows what it could lead to. More brand awareness, more social media followers, increased revenue, or maybe it's just a platform for you to share your story. What have you got to lose? Click on the link now. So here we are in the brain dump, and as I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to share my story. This is something I've done only a few times in the past, never like this, but now feels like the right time to do it to a bit more of a wider audience. So, as you all know, I'm Tony. I run an IT support company in Winchester in Hampshire called BitSmart Technology. I created the company towards the end of 2019 and went live at the start of the global COVID pandemic. Now, before I tell you more about that, let's go back in time. I was born 1983. Yes, I am 40, well, very, very nearly, and I've lived in and around the Winchester area my entire life. It's a beautiful place to live, full of history, though it is pricey. I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and while it was a happy childhood, for me there were grey areas. I had little self-esteem, almost no confidence, and I hid parts of myself to the outside world. This was down to being the subject of bullying. Pretty much throughout my entire childhood, I was mentally and physically hurt, and this was done by people who I had considered friends at times. Now, as I sit and talk to you right now, I'm around 6'2" in height. When I left school at 16, I was about 5'5". My son's 11, he's that height now. I got to a stage where I thought I deserved to be treated that way and that I was inferior to my peers. In the grand scheme of things, however, if things didn't go the way they did, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you now, and my life would be completely different. And over the years, I've realised if it wasn't for those bad experiences, I wouldn't be who I am right now, which I hope is a better, kinder and more respectful person. Now, I didn't get the best grades at school, but I got enough to get onto my course. I wanted to do a vocational course in IT. My first computer was an Amiga 500 Plus, and while I could and did spend many hours playing Lemmings, I used to play around with some of the other programs to see what I could do. I remember vividly attempting to write a 4th Back to the Future film screenplay using a really basic word processor and playing with a very basic text-to-speech program. Now, the 2 years in college were chalk and cheese from school. I had a blast, and I worked part-time at McDonald's, much to I think my family's chagrin at the time. But then what's funny is my 2 younger brothers also did some time at the Golden Arches as well. And do you know what? I would recommend anybody work there, even if it's just for 6 months once you've left school. It teaches so many transferable skills, from communication to customer service and more. I was there for close to 10 years, and during this time I worked with some amazing people. I got an insight into what franchising was, and the best part, I met my wife. Now, for the first few months of her working there, our paths never crossed. I'm not a morning person, and I would typically work the late shifts. She had a young daughter and needed to work the early shifts for nursery. It was only when her sister came over for a stay during the summer of 2007 that she started working different shifts. I asked her to come for drinks, which is something I did quite often to thank the team for their hard work by buying them a beer. And as we got to know each other, bam! Something hit me like I never felt before, and I wasn't sure whether to act on it or not. I did, and it was met by the fact that she had a child. At this point I was around 24, and I spent so many years out on the town with friends every week. I was ready for a change. I was ready to step up, and I felt that I could potentially have a positive impact on a child's life. From what I remember of that time, she wanted to think about it. A few days later, we were going to take things slow and see how it went from there. We managed to keep the relationship a secret for the better part of a year. I was a manager, she wasn't, and we didn't want others to think she was somehow getting special treatment. I think I actually treated her worse than I treated anybody else during that time. Anyway, it was about a year later that she made waves in my life. She said that I was better than what I was doing. I was wasting my potential, and that I should go study to get a better job. So I went to university at the age of 25. I wasn't there for the experience. I wasn't there to find myself. I was there to do one thing: learn and carve out a future for myself and my family. Again, those 3 years flew by. In that time, we both made the decision to leave McDonald's, She went to work nights at a supermarket so I could study and then work during the days I wasn't at university. And do you know what? It worked like a charm. Like school, didn't quite get the grade I was hoping for, but by 2011 I had a degree in business management and IT. I thought the world was my oyster. I was in mobile phone sales at the time. I'd been made an assistant manager again after starting at the very bottom, and it was fun. Our son was born in January 2012. I got moved around a bit, which was a blessing and a curse, but again gave me more experience. But I wasn't doing what I spent 3 years training for. I was working for a national company. I was a very, very tiny cog in a huge wheel, meaning my input had next to no impact on the business as a whole. So I applied for jobs. Lots and lots of jobs. I must have sent CVs and cover letters to about 3,000 positions over 18 months. I'd almost reached the end of my tether at the mobile network. The enjoyment had gone. So I gave myself a challenge. I gave him my 8 weeks notice, knowing that I'd either find a job in my wheelhouse or I could go and stack shelves while the hunt continued. And I nearly lost hope. So much so, I'd applied to work at Sainsbury's as a delivery driver. Then I found a position on Gumtree of all places. Website admin and office manager for a tile showroom and warehouse in the New Forest. I applied, and after 2 interviews I was given the job. It was a steep change. I had to be there at 8 AM every day, and it was an hour drive. I'd walk in just before 8 or very, very often on the dot every day. The owner didn't get it, as he was coming from Basingstoke, which is further away. I loved the people and the job was enjoyable. It was hard work. Page 1 of Google for organic search was the target at the time. They were on page 12 or 14 after a site rebrand. I was there a year before the travel took its toll. My son was getting to that age where they have personality, and I didn't want to miss it. I found a job at the bottom again as an intranet admin in Winchester. Similar pay to the New Forest job, but 20 minutes away on foot. I didn't apply at first. I slept on it. Went back to apply the next day and it was gone. Lucky for me, it reappeared on the job site about a week later. I applied on the Monday, had interviews Wednesday and Thursday, and at about 8:05 on the Friday, I'd resigned from the job in the New Forest. Yeah, I was late. Anyway, June 2014, and I was now an intranet admin for a procurement franchise. I showed my value early on, gained a number of promotions all the way up to head of IT. I'd also helped with franchise sales, operations, tech support, all those sorts of things. And it was in 2018 when things started to change again. In November, the company would hold their annual conference, and the person who keynoted was motivational speaker Brad Burton. I'd heard of 4 Networking, which he founded in 2004, but I didn't know of him, and his story resonated with me on a number of levels. We met again a few months later at a franchise expo where he was keynoting, and again, more resonation. We would connect on social media, and I chatted to him over Instagram messaging, literally on the way back from the expo. I bought a couple of his books, read them cover to cover. I then decided to write a proposal to the powers that be at the procurement franchise about adjusting my position and becoming more front-end sales focused, as the IT wasn't a huge focus, but it should have been a huge opportunity. I was told I wasn't confident enough. They didn't have the confidence in me to do it. This spurred me to have a conversation with my wife about going solo. And to my surprise, she wasn't against it. She told me to think about it seriously, make a decision, and she would support me. I then went to an event in Southampton a few months later, around September time. I'd taken on the role of supplier relationships at this point as well, and was checking the event to see if it had the potential for us to exhibit at a later stage. And I bumped into Brad again. He introduced me to a chap called Ian Dixon, a business coach and speaker who was running an event later that week, and that I should go. I did, and it was during that event I realised that going solo was something that I could do. I didn't need lots of capital, and that theoretically I could do it alongside the job and phase out my exit. 2019 annual conference, which was 2 months later, I was sat backstage doing the AV and setting up my company. Swiftly after that, COVID hit. I was furloughed, and at that point I knew I wouldn't go back. I pressed go on the business. During a global pandemic where people couldn't go and meet with each other, I did so much online networking over those lockdown months, it was unreal. I've made lifelong friends, I've got clients, I did what I had to do to survive. I stacked shelves for a few months overnight. I trained the elderly on digital skills. I did what was necessary. I've now been in the business properly for over a year full time, with the business being my main source of income. Have I set the world alight? No. But in 3 years, on and off, I've come from a £25 IKEA desk in the corner of my bedroom, to a £40 desk from eBay at the back of the living room, to my own dedicated workspace in the garden. Yep, a proper office. And if you remember, in the last episode, we had Stacey Calder on the show talking about awards, and we mentioned that I was a finalist in 2 categories, Business Growth and Expert of the Year. Well, do you know what? I've now got an award-winning business. As I was awarded Expert of the Year. This was the biggest category. I was a finalist in 2022, but to win was immense. And for me, it was completely unexpected, as every other finalist on that card was as worthy as I was. So that's my story. 40 years old, amazing wife who has super supported, has achieved so much herself over the past couple of years. We'll have been married 10 years come September, but sometimes it feels like it's been forever, in a good way. She was my first guest back on episode 4. Please go and check it out. I've got a soon-to-be 19-year-old stepdaughter who, despite all her foibles, has turned into a wonderful young woman. And then there is my boy. He reminds me of me so much, but without all the social anxiety and awkwardness that I had and still have. He'll talk to anyone, and it's a quality I envy. Typical techie, happiest in front of the screen. So what's next for the business? More awards? More glory? More growth? Only time will tell. Now, I think I've whittled on long enough. Let's move on to the tip. Our tip of the episode. So before we go to the tip, I just want to thank Stacey and her team for putting on a cracking awards event. It was epic being able to catch up with people I haven't seen for a while, and a few that I had. And a huge thanks to Diane Ivory. Diane won the Expert of the Year award in 2022, and she was the sponsor this year. She also set a precedent, meaning that in 2024, I will be sponsoring the Expert Award. So, to the tip. I'm going to steal one from Brad Burton this time. Don't mute your own brilliance because it's too loud for others. I've done this for way too long. I would stay on the sidelines, agree with others, just for an easy life. It was only when I started to own my voice that I realised, do you know what? I make sense. I'm not timid. If I need to roar, I can roar. Now, we all have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And for years, I would use the ears, but I wouldn't use the mouth. If you have something to say, or you feel your opinion should be heard, in the words of Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek, make it so. Holding back will only hurt you in the long run. So, we have reached the end of the episode. I've been Tony, the IT Smart Guy. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I truly hope you found this episode enjoyable, and I look forward to speaking to you again next time. If you've enjoyed the episode, or even if you haven't, please do leave us a review. It's the only way we can get better. And as always, give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube, or give us a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening to the IT Smart Guy podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'd love for you to like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice.